Neil Young once told a famous rock band they were fake sellouts and didn't talk to them for 20 years. Tonight, we show you the 6 bands that made Neil Young really mad and the fights that almost ended his career. Keep watching to find out which band made Neil Young so angry he left the stage during a show. Toronto, 1963. 15-year-old Neil Young sits in his bedroom, strumming his cheap guitar while his divorced mother works 2 jobs to pay rent. His father, a famous sports writer, barely acknowledges his existence. Young Neil makes a promise to himself that night: he will never compromise his music for money or fame like the fake artists he sees on television. This childhood vow would later fuel some of the most explosive feuds in rock history. Let me tell you something most people don't know about Neil Young. He wasn't born rich or famous. His parents got divorced, and it really hurt him. This made him hate anything fake or phony. His mom had to work hard to take care of him while his dad lived like a rich celebrity. Young learned that being successful often means giving up what's real. This lesson made him fight against bands he thought were fake his whole life. By the late 1960s, Young joined Buffalo Springfield and became famous. But even then, he was different from other musicians. While his bandmates enjoyed being rock stars, Young worried about keeping his music real. He watched the music business turn honest artists into fake products and promised never to let that happen to him. Former band member Richie Furay said Young would get really mad whenever someone wanted to make their music more popular. The first big fight came when Young joined Crosby, Stills and Nash in 1969. This supergroup should have been perfect for him, but it became a nightmare. David Crosby later said that Young's need for perfection and refusal to give in created constant fight. Young saw his bandmates as good musicians who wanted radio hits more than meaningful music. The fights got so bad that Young would disappear for weeks without telling anyone where he went. But here's where things get really shocking. Keep watching to discover the band that made Neil Young so furious he smashed his guitar on stage. Corporate rock became Young's first big enemy in the 1970s. Bands like Styx, Kansas, and REO Speedwagon were everything he hated about the music business. These groups made smooth, radio-friendly songs that record labels designed to sell millions of copies. Young saw them as fake artists who cared more about money than music. He called them factory musicians, who were ruining rock music's rebel spirit. The hatred intensified when these corporate rock bands started outselling authentic artists like Young. Radio stations played their manufactured hits instead of supporting real songwriters. Young felt betrayed by an industry that rewarded fakeness over creativity. Studio engineer David Briggs revealed that Young would rant for hours about how corporate rock was poisoning young people's minds with empty messages disguised as rebellious music. Young's war against corporate rock influenced his decision to make deliberately uncommercial albums like On the Beach and Tonight's the Night. These dark, experimental records confused fans and angered his record label, but Young didn't care. He would rather fail commercially than succeed by copying the corporate rock formula. His refusal to play the game cost him millions in potential sales but preserved his artistic soul. Arena rock superstars became Young's second target in the late. Bands like Journey, Foreigner, and Boston achieved massive success by creating anthemic songs designed to fill stadiums. Young saw these groups as everything wrong with rock music's evolution from intimate expression to mass entertainment spectacle. He believed their music was emotionally empty despite its technical proficiency and commercial appeal. The conflict became personal when arena rock bands started using sophisticated stage productions and elaborate light shows. Young felt this emphasis on visual spectacle distracted from the music itself. He famously said these bands were selling experiences instead of songs and accused them of treating audiences like customers instead of fellow human beings seeking authentic connection. Former Crazy Horse guitarist Frank Samperdo disclosed that Young would refuse to play festivals where arena rock bands were also performing. He didn't want to be associated with what he called circus music for people who don't really listen. This stubborn stance limited his touring opportunities but reinforced his reputation as an uncompromising artist who put principles before profits. The new wave movement of the late 1970s and early 1980s created Young's third major conflict. Bands like Devo, Talking Heads, and The Cars embraced synthesizers and electronic sounds that Young saw as cold and inhuman. He believed these groups were replacing rock music's emotional warmth with technological artificiality. The generational divide between Young's acoustic-based approach and New Wave's electronic innovation created bitter philosophical differences. Young's hatred for New Wave intensified when critics started praising these bands for their innovation while dismissing his traditional approach as outdated. Music journalists wrote articles claiming that Young's guitar-driven sound was obsolete in the synthesizer age. These reviews devastated Young because he felt critics were choosing technological novelty over emotional authenticity. The breaking point came when MTV started promoting new wave bands through their visual appeal rather than musical substance. Young saw this as the final corruption of rock music's authentic spirit. He refused to make music videos for years, stating that visual gimmicks were destroying people's ability to appreciate pure music. His stance against MTV culture cost him exposure to younger audiences but maintained his artistic principles. But wait until you hear about the band that triggered Neil Young's most explosive outburst ever. This story will shock you. Hair metal bands became Young's fourth target, and groups like Poison, Warrant, and Winger represented everything he despised about rock music's transformation into shallow entertainment. These bands combined corporate rock's commercial calculation with new wave's emphasis on visual image, creating what Young called the worst of both worlds. He saw hair metal as fake rebellion designed to sell records to teenage girls rather than express genuine emotions. The hatred became personal when hair metal bands started covering classic rock songs and turning them into pop hits. Young watched in horror as these groups stripped the meaning from songs that had originally expressed real pain and struggle. He felt like grave robbers were desecrating rock music's sacred history for commercial gain. Producer Daniel Lanois revealed that Young would become physically angry when hair metal videos appeared on television during studio sessions. He would turn off the TV and rant about how these bands were insulting their audience's intelligence with their fake personas and manufactured rebellion. Young's disgust with hair metal influenced his return to raw garage rock sounds in the late 90s. This might surprise fans who consider Young a godfather of the grunge movement, but his relationship with alternative bands was complicated and often hostile. While he respected some alternative artists like Sonic Youth and Dinosaur Jr., he despised bands he saw as pretentious or overly intellectual in their approach to rock music. Young's specific hatred targeted alternative bands that received critical acclaim for being artistically challenging, while lacking emotional authenticity. He felt these groups were creating music for critics and college students rather than connecting with working-class audiences who needed rock music's healing power. The academic approach to alternative rock conflicted with Young's belief that great music should be simple and emotionally direct. The tension escalated when alternative rock bands started achieving mainstream success in the mid-1990s. Young worried that these groups would repeat the mistakes of previous generations by compromising their artistic vision for commercial appeal. His fears proved justified when many alternative bands did exactly that, transforming from underground innovators to radio-friendly hitmakers. Now here's the most shocking revelation of all. The band that made Neil Young angrier than any other wasn't even a rock group. It was the country pop crossover acts of the 1990s and 2000s. Artists like Shania Twain, Keith Urban, and later Taylor Swift represented Young's ultimate nightmare: manufactured authenticity designed to appeal to the widest possible audience while expressing nothing genuine about human experience. Young's hatred for country pop crossover acts went deeper than musical preferences. He saw these artists as symbols of everything wrong with the entire music industry. They combined corporate rock's commercial calculation, arena rock's mass appeal, new wave's image focus, hair metal's superficiality, and alternative rock's critical acceptance into one perfectly manufactured package that sold millions of records while expressing nothing real about life. The breaking point came when these country pop acts started winning Grammy Awards and critical acclaim for their authenticity and storytelling. Young couldn't understand how critics and audiences could praise obviously manufactured artists while ignoring genuine songwriters who poured their souls into their music. Former manager Elliot Roberts revealed that Young would go into rages watching award shows where country pop acts received honors for work he considered artistically bankrupt. Young's disgust with country pop crossover influenced his decision to make increasingly experimental and uncommercial albums in the 2000s. Records like Greendale and Living with War confused fans and critics, but Young didn't care. He would rather create challenging, authentic art than compete with manufactured country pop for mainstream acceptance. The personal cost of these battles was enormous. Young's refusal to compromise his artistic vision often put him at odds with his record labels, bandmates, and even longtime fans who wanted him to make more accessible music. His marriages suffered as he spent increasing time fighting industry trends instead of focusing on personal relationships. But here's why Young's battles mattered. His fierce independence preserved his authentic voice, and created a catalog of songs that spoke directly to human experience without corporate interference. Albums like Harvest, Rust Never Sleeps, and Freedom became classics because they were honest and uncompromised. His fights with the industry inspired countless musicians to prioritize artistic integrity over commercial success. Former Crazy Horse drummer Ralph Molina admitted that working with Young could be difficult because of his perfectionism and refusal to accept anything less than complete authenticity. But this same uncompromising attitude created the songs that made him a legend. Every track was a statement against industry corruption and cultural manipulation. As the music industry evolved through the digital age, Young's principles remained constant. His criticism of streaming services and corporate control proved prescient as artists struggled to maintain creative and financial independence in the new landscape. Younger musicians began citing Young as an influence, recognizing his role in preserving rock music's authentic spirit. The emergence of social media and manufactured online personas validated many of Young's warnings about authenticity in popular culture. His lifelong battle against fake artistry seemed more relevant than ever in an era where image often mattered more than substance. Digital platforms allowed his music to reach new audiences who appreciated his commitment to genuine expression. In his later career, Young continued fighting against industry trends he saw as harmful to authentic music. His battles with Spotify over audio quality and artist compensation showed that his principles extended beyond just musical content to how music was distributed and consumed. He remained willing to sacrifice commercial success to maintain his artistic and ethical standard. Neil Young's story teaches us that maintaining authenticity often requires fighting against forces that want to corrupt or compromise your vision. His hatred for corporate rock, arena rock superstars, new wave synthesizer bands, hair metal acts, pretentious alternative groups, and country pop crossover artists wasn't just personal preference. It was a principled stand for genuine artistic expression in an industry designed to manufacture fake authenticity. The real legacy of Neil Young's Feuds isn't the conflicts themselves, but his unwavering commitment to creating music that expressed real human emotions without corporate mediation. His battles preserved a voice that spoke directly to people's deepest experiences of love, loss, hope, and struggle. While his criticisms weren't always fair, his dedication to authenticity created timeless music that continues to inspire new generations. Remember this: in a world that constantly pressures artists to compromise their vision for broader appeal, Neil Young chose to fight for genuine expression instead of manufactured success. His music endures because it was created by someone who refused to let industry pressure change his fundamental commitment to artistic truth and emotional honesty.